Fun fact number 105. Got the glasses on, ready to read. Children of Light, Chapter 8. It's called The Day of Lost Souls. We have been traveling for many days. We have found some sustainable vegetation. When we do rest, are we settled? We have not found the life forms yet. Hobarth, you know that. Do you fear something? Captain Trevor never thought he'd have to console his telepath. What did he know that the rest did not? I'm sorry, Captain. The voices are confusing. We have been traveling south. Do you see that great mountain to the north? I feel fear coming from that region. I feel a welcoming gladness from the south. But neither of these revelations seem to come to any conclusion that would help in discovering the true nature of either being emanating these tidings. In a word, I'm confused. There is something to fear from both areas, but what I cannot tell, I'm very tired trying to figure this out. And I'm tired of looking for answers and traveling on and finding no hope. I find our quest useless and pitiful and exasperating. I'm so confused. I've never been this lost before. I seem to become less and less sure of my talents and the signals I receive. I never wanted to cry as much as I do now. Come on, you whiner. Ha! You make me laugh. What's the problem? Were you burnt by the unknown? Are you hobbling about? Lend me a fantasy fling or not. If I can do it, you can too. Andrea's reply to Hobarth's strange behavior shocked her listeners. She usually spoke softly and always kindly. Vladimir had been scouting ahead even though he thought he should be afraid because the explanation to what happened to Winton was still a mystery. Vladimir found himself quite at ease more than ever before in his life. He couldn't explain the feeling, but he loved this planet. Maybe the elusive spark was in the fuzzy softness of the planet, or the pastel colors, or the various shades of brown. He saw a great flying creature overhead. He wondered casually, could this be the mysterious killer? There were large varieties of cacti. Vladimir followed the great flying creature to the far distance, and in sight, in a slight valley, he saw a cluster of buildings. There was a huge rock building in the middle of the cluster, which was shaped like a dome. He hurried back to the encampment to report his sighting. Dr. Newly Sheffield had wandered away from the others by herself. She had gone northward and had walked a long distance. She felt like she was being pulled, but perhaps she was just following the path of least resistance. She grabbed a white spiral from a cactus and read the strange plant form for life signs with Winton's electronic meter. The spiral was a living creature and was edible like a fruit. She tasted the cactus spiral. The bitterness of the spiral's taste caused Newly to step back, and she smacked her lips together. The closest description she could find to record on her sensor was the taste was a mix of grapefruit, lemon, and coconut, but the taste was more like a bitter candy, and the spiral was very crispy, like it had been deep fried. Nothing that she knew of could really describe the edible spiral completely, and all she knew was that she would prefer the classified fruit with sugar to cut through some of the bitter taste. On the ground ahead of her, in the shade of one of the huge fudgy tree things, she saw a vine-type plant. The vine appeared to be similar to some of the vines on Earth. It was low to the ground, had dark green and purple leaves, mostly green with deep purple veins. The vine was very long, but bore no fruit. There was a purple dot in the middle of each vine leaf. The purple dot was not part of the leaf, but looked to have been placed on top of each leaf with a touch of glue. The last part she observed when she pulled the circular flat violet dot off the leaf. The dot perfectly circled the inside of her hand. She tasted the dot and found it to be edible. Newly was pleasantly surprised to find the taste sweet and the texture similar to a smoked protein. The dot was half an inch thick. While she was savoring the taste of the purple dot, Newly had not noticed the creeping and shaking of the vines that now had surrounded both her legs. There were little white and black specks of various sizes under the vine on the ground. These were the cleaners of the planet. They were the creatures that ate dead flesh or any other waste. They were like bugs. Newly noted her bug observation in her recording log of life forms, and then was yanked down by the vines as she lay on the ground. The vines began to circle her body and squeeze. She screamed a few times, but knew she had traveled too far from the encampment for anyone to hear her. She was doomed. She could see the creatures under the vines poised in anticipation. Hobarth had felt a strange change in the atmosphere on the planet. Someone was in danger, but where and who? Before he landed on this planet, he would have known the answer to that question. He felt a pulling from the north and the south, and was too unsure to contemplate any action. He was so frustrated and befuddled. Trevor saw Hobarth's perplexed look and knew they were in for another bout of Hobarth hysterics, perhaps some bad news. Andrea had been sleeping under a tree. She sat up with a start and realized she was sweating. It must have been another burning dream with Winton's screams filling the air. There was a lavender pod by the tree. She reached for the pod and ate it. A few days before, she had tasted one triangular lavender pod and realized that the lavender pods had a calming effect and were similar to hallucinogens and tranquilizers. The lavender pod from the furry trees had tasted similar to nothing or paper, but the pods had enabled her to handle all the traveling psyche wounds and struggles easily and effortlessly. Vladimir returned to the encampment, exclaiming about the town he had seen ahead. "Alas," said Andrea, "alas, we'll meet the murderers." "Perhaps they are helpful beings and not murderers at all. We can't be sure," said Trevor. "Knowing is better than not knowing," said Vladimir. "Let us discover who is friend, foe, or whatever. Let us learn the truth of the matter." Hobarth was resigned to joining the others. He was relieved that perhaps his confusion would be clarified. But where was Newly? "Where's Dr. Sheffield?" Captain Trevor asked as the thought entered Hobarth's mind. "The last time I saw her, she was wandering northward," replied Andrea. "That was some time ago." The crew stood silent. No one had heard a scream. Hobarth sensed danger, but from where? Where was Newly? Who should go look? Should anyone look? If they looked, they would have to stay in the encampment another night. They would have to postpone their trip to the town Vladimir had found. What if she returned while others searched for her? "I'll go look for her," said Vladimir. "We should stay here tonight in case I don't find her, to give her time to return. If she does not return by morning light and I do not find her, then we will explore the village to the south. What do you think?" "That sounds like a plan," said Trevor. Vladimir searched all night for Newly. He returned to the camp as the others awoke. Newly wasn't there. Newly wasn't anywhere. No one said anything. They packed and trekked towards the village without a word. And that's Fun Fact number 105, Chapter 8 of Children of Light, Days of Lost Souls. Ciao, Bellas.